So this is a homework video for section 9.7. You were assigned 6 problems, 4 through 10 and 24 through 26 evens on page 569. I'm going to do half of them, so I'll do 3. I'll do 6, 10, and 26 for you. So I want to start with number 6. Number 6 is essentially factoring of a trinomial. Now, like the 9.6 problems, you have a coefficient in front of the first term, and it's a coefficient that you can't easily factor out. The 5 doesn't go into the 6, nor does it go into the 1. So you write your 2 parentheses, and then you look at the last number and the first number. The middle number becomes a little bit less important in these problem types. So I'm going to look at the 1. And what multiplies to give us a 1? Well, a 1 and a 1. That was easy. And then we're going to look at the 5. So we're looking at this number here, and we're looking at this number here. And what multiplies to give us a 5? Well, a 5 and a 1, or a 1 and a 5. So my number combination is going to be 1, 1. And then 5, 1. In the first position is going to be 5, 1 or 1, 5. In the second position makes it easy. It's going to be 1 and 1. That's all I have. Now, since I have a positive right here and a negative here, I know that both of my signs have to be negative, because I need a negative number, at least one, but they have to multiply to a positive. That means they both have to be negative, because the only way you can have a multiplication of negatives but end up positive if both are positive. Alright, so I have that set up. So now I'm going to go ahead and take a look at my numbers. I have a 5, a 1, a 1, and a 1. So I'm just going to also have to have my variable. The W here, the W here, and that comes from that W squared. So I'm just randomly going to put in my numbers and see if it works. Just like with the rest of these problems, trial and error plays a big part here. So I'm going to put a 5 here. I'm going to put a 1 there, but I'm going to put a 5 here. I'm going to put my 1 here from the 5. And then from here, that makes it nice and easy. 1 and 1. And then I do my FOIL multiplication, and I see what I get. 5w times 1, that's 5w squared. 5w times negative 1, that's negative 5w. Negative 1 times a w, that's a negative 1w. Negative 1 times a negative 1, that's a positive 1. Simplify that middle, and you get 5w squared minus 6w plus 1. Perfect. Now I got lucky. If I put my 1 here and I put my 5 here, this would probably not work. And that's fine. If it didn't work, I would just go back and try it the other way. There was actually only 2 ways to order this problem, so it was going to be the right way or the wrong way. And I got lucky and I got the right way from the first time, from the get-go. So that was number 6. Let's go ahead and try number 10. Same thing as the last problem. Can't factor anything out, and I have that 2 in front. So I can't factor that 2 out. So I'm going to start off with a pair of parentheses. I'm going to look at my last number and my first number, or my last and first coefficients, the A and the C, technically. The A, my first number here, and the C, the last number. So I'm going to start with the last number. What multiplies to give us a 3? That's easy. A 3 and a 1, 3 times 1. What multiplies to give us a 2? That's also easy. A 2 and a 1. Alright. What about the signs? Just like last time, I have a positive in the last position and a negative in the middle position. The only thing that'll give me that is if both numbers are negative, because negative times negative gives us a positive, but I can still have a negative number in the middle if I have 2 negatives number adding up to a larger negative number. And then I want to randomly put in 2 first, then 1, 3 first, then 1. Totally random. I have no idea if it's going to work or not. 2, 1, 3, 1. I figure I have a 50-50 shot of this working or not, just like before. And I can't forget my C and C here. That comes from that c squared. Okay, all right. Let's FOIL and see what we get. I'll use purple this time. 2c times c, that's 2c squared. 2c times -1, that's -2c. -3 times c, that's -3c. -3 times -1, it's a +1. Close, but that's not going to work because -2c times a -2c plus a -3c, or however you want to read this, that gives me a -5c. I want a -7c. Nope, that's not going to work for us. So let's go ahead and try my other combination. So I'm going to keep the 2 where it is. So the 2c in the first position. So 2, 1 here. Of course, c, c. I'm going to move this 3. I'm going to flip the 3 and the 1. Let's try that. I think that's going to be the key here. And the signs are still, of course, negative, negative. So all I did is I flipped the 3 from here to here, and the 1 took its place. Let's FOIL. 2c times 1c, that's still 2c squared. 2c times -3, that's a -6c. -1 times 1c, that's -1c. -1 times -3 is a +3. And when I combine these, I get -7c. Yep, that'll work. So unlike last time, I had 2 choices and I stumbled on the wrong choice the first time, and the second time, once I flipped it to the only other possibility, I was lucky here, there was only 2 possibilities. I got the right answer. So trial and error, yes, but that's the only way to go with these problems. So that was number 10. Let's move on to number 26. Let's do 26. Now 26 is pretty similar to the problems we've done so far, except the problems we've done so far are expressions. We just factor them and simplify them. This is an equation. This one we have to solve. If there's an equal sign, you have to solve it to completion. But you start out the same way. Can't factor anything out. The 4 doesn't go into the 11 or the -3. So that method's out. So I start off with my 2 parentheses. This time it equals to a 0. But I still look at my last number in the trinomial, the 3, and the first number, the 4. Let's take a look at the 3 first. What multiplies to a 3? 3 and a 1. So that's from here. And then I'm going to take a look at my first number, the 4. What multiplies to 4? Here it gets a little bit more complicated, because I can go with 4 and 1, but I can also have 2 and 2. Yes, that's going to make this even more complicated than before, because now I technically have 3 combinations that'll work. 3, 1, 4, 1, and 2 and 2. It is how it is. And with the way signs are, I have a positive in the middle, yet a negative at the end. Since I have a negative here, one can be a positive, one can be a negative. One has to be a positive, one has to be a negative. I don't know which ones. Totally in the dark here. This problem is going to require quite a bit of trial and error, unfortunately. I'm going to write my s's here because I know those are there. That's from the s squared. And then I'm just going to plug things in and see how close I am. I'll go with my first combinations the way I wrote them. 4 here, 1 here, 3 here, 1 here. Totally random, although there is a way of trying to figure this out to make it a little bit less random. But let me try the random method first, see how close I get, and then I'll tell you how you can actually eliminate a little bit of the trial and error. 4s times s is 4s squared. Good. 4s times 1s, that's going to be a positive 4s. 3 times s, that's a positive 3s. 3 times -1 minus 3. That's going to yield me a 7s. Which is close, but it's not what we want. So this isn't going to be the combination that'll work for us. I need a different combination, but let's analyze this before I plug in another random set of numbers. So I came close, but I want a larger middle number. So I multiplied the 4 and the 1, sorry, the 4 and the 1 here and the 3 and the 1, and that's not quite enough to give me what I need. What about if I multiply the 4 and the 3 together? That'll give me a 12. That could work. That could work. So I want to make sure, now again, this is a bit of trial and error. I want to make sure that I'm multiplying the 4 and the 3. So I'm going to shift this 3 from here to here. That way, when I do my outers, it'll be 4s times 3. And I want it to be positive because the 11s is positive, so I definitely want the larger of my multiplicants to be positive. So I'm going to write my s's here. I'm going to keep the signs the same. I'm not going to flip the signs because that didn't seem to be the problem. And then I'm going to write the 4 still here and the 1 still here, but I'm going to flip that 3. So 1 here, 3 here. Actually, no, I'm going to flip the signs because remember, I want my middle term to be positive, a large positive. Right now, if I go 4s times negative 3, I'll get negative 12s. That's not going to work. Actually, I want to flip my signs. I want this to be negative, this to be positive. So yes, I am flipping my signs. So what this is going to give me? 4s times 1s, that's 4s squared. 4s times positive 3, positive 12s. That's promising. Negative 1 times 1s, that's a negative 1s. That's going to be the key. Negative 1 times positive 3 is a minus 3. And if I simplify this, I get my 11s. I'm going to bring this down, 4s squared plus minus 3. Okay, good. So that actually works. That's my right combination. And we didn't have to use the 2 and the 2. So good. Sometimes the 4 and the 1 would not work. So sometimes if there's more than one combination here, the first one doesn't work, then you do a lot of flipping, the signs don't work, and then you realize that maybe you have to jump to the second combination. So the trial and error in some of these problems can be gruesome. So hopefully we won't get any of these problems on the quiz. And by hopefully, I mean I won't put any on the quiz. Anyways, but we're not done yet because this equals to 0, and we have to solve it to completion. But we know how to do that. This times this gives us a 0. So either the first thing or the second thing has to be 0. A times B equals to 0. Either the A or the B has to be 0. The zero product property. So I'm going to kind of write it on the side here. So either the 4s minus 1 equals to 0, or the 1s, I'm just going to write an s plus 3, because we don't need that 1 there, equals to 0. So either this is a 0 or this is a 0. The zero product property plays a hand here. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So 4s equals to a positive 1. Divide both sides by 4. S equals to 1 over 4. So s is either 1 over 4. Here I'm just going to subtract 3 from both sides. So s equals to negative 3. So s is either 1 over 4 or s is negative 3. And technically you could easily, well not so easily, but you can plug this into the original problem and figure out if you got this right or not. I'm going to assume that all my work is right, and because I'm so great I never make any mistakes, I'm not going to do that. But if you wanted to double check, you could plug this and this either or. Either this first and figure out if this statement is true, or plug this in for the s and figure out if the statement is true. I'm just not going to do it because it's been a long day. So thank you very much. I'll see you back in class. If you have any more questions, please ask me then, or after school, before school, or at lunch. Have a nice day.